On today's show, GM Brian McClellan said that the team is looking for a top 6 forward. Is Nikolaj Ehlers that top 6 forward? I'll discuss next on this edition of Locked On Capitals.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, this podcast is free and available on all the major platforms, including the SiriusXM app and on YouTube. And I want to thank you for making this your first listen each and every day. My name is Dan Holme. I've covered the Capitals for the last 3 seasons for Locked On and various other outlets before that. I'm also the host of the weekly show called The Capitals Minutecast, available wherever you find your podcasts. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. And the best way that you can help grow the show is to subscribe to Locked On Capitals on YouTube and comment anything down below. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on to get started. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, we hear a lot of talk from Brian McClellan for the last year plus about this team needs this top 6 forward. And up to this point, it's just been lip service. We have not seen it. We've heard from Brian McClellan that we've done what we can do, but these guys don't grow on trees. Well, there's rumors circulating about Nikolaj Ehlers. Would he be a good option for the Capitals? A little bit later, we will talk about the struggles that Alex Ovechkin faced this last season. Got off to his slowest start ever, turned on the Jets, and then lost his way in the playoffs. What does Ovi plan on changing between now and the start of next season? Then we'll talk about that Brian McClellan does, in fact, want to go out and get that top 6 forward, but we're going to need to see a whole lot more from the younger players on the Capitals. But just to get it going here, this piece came from The Athletic, talking about the possibility of Nikolaj Ehlers being a good match with the Capitals. The Jets are looking to offload players after the team is left looking for answers after an early exit from the playoffs. I think we've heard that before. Oh, yeah, that's the Capitals. And it's interesting, for many teams, making it to the playoffs would be a huge victory. But for other teams like the Jets and the Capitals in particular, it seems like you weren't living up to potential. And I think the Jets have higher hopes. They are a team in transition. So I think that they plan on offloading some of those players. The Winnipeg Jets are reportedly considering making changes to the roster this offseason, with talented winger Nikolaj Ehlers potentially being traded, according to The Athletic's Amir at 8. The Jets are likely to shop Ehlers ahead of the 2024 NHL draft. And we've heard quite a few different players circulated out there from different sources. We heard about the possibility of Darcy Kemper getting sent out to the Kings. We've heard about all sorts of players potentially coming and going from this team. Is there the possibility that, in fact, Nikolaj Ehlers would be a good match for the Capitals? Ehlers fits the bill of a bit younger top 6 forward. Oftentimes when people hear the younger forward, they're thinking late teens, early 20s, something like that. I don't think the Capitals necessarily need to go in that direction, that it has to be a super young player. He is under 30 years old. He has a good skill set. There is a pretty good upside. So Ehlers does fit the bill of a younger top 6 forward. Caps GM Brian McClellan has expressed his desire to add scoring talent to his team's forward group, mentioning that the team will explore both the trade and free agency market for the right fit. Ehlers, a 28-year-old winger, could be a good fit for the Capitals, as he consistently been a top performer for the Jets despite limited ice time. And sometimes it's just A change of scenery, a change of zip code can sometimes be, excuse me, exactly what the doctor ordered. Would that be the case for Ehlers? Potentially. But I do think that he does fit, I think, what a lot of Capitals fans and what Brian McClellan, in fact, meant by a top six forward. Ehlers' season with the Jets and his current contract, what are the specifics? Ehlers had a strong season, recording 61 points in 82 games. He ranked among the top players in the league for points per 60 minutes of ice time at 5-on-5. With 1 year left on his contract at a $6 million cap hit and some trade protection, Ehlers could be an attractive option for teams looking to add scoring talent. And that's evident. That is exactly what the Capitals are looking for, is scoring talent. It can't be all on Alex Ovechkin's shoulders anymore. We know that he is, reaching the twilight of his career. TJ Oshie, we don't know the status of him. Nicholas Backstrom stepped away from hockey indefinitely. That we need to see scoring from different places, just not the predictable names or the ones that we've seen historically. Caps could use some of their draft capital to acquire Ehlers. And that's some of the things that people have already been asking about, because I'm not the first one to talk about this. Of course, this emanates from The Athletic, but other beat writers have talked about this topic as well. And how would it be possible for the Capitals to facilitate such a move? The Jets have seen success with Ehlers on ice, and trading him could help replenish their draft picks and kickstart a new phase of their franchise. The Capitals, with ample cap space and draft capital, could be a potential suitor for Ehlers, especially with potential departures and uncertainties in their current roster. Talking about TJ Oshie, Nick Backstrom, those kind of players. Not to mention the players that could potentially be on the move in the form of Max Pacioretty, Nicolas Aube-Kubel, etc. That this is a changing face of the Capitals. Whether we're ready for it or not, change is coming just based on this team getting older. And that is the position that they're in. So I think that, Nikolaj Ehlers fits that role of potentially being that guy that we've heard about for the longest time. We've heard different names out there, and ultimately at this point, it's just kind of spitballing. It's kind of throwing it at the wall and seeing what sticks. But these are possibilities of what could be. In this show, I've spoke about it this offseason about different names that could potentially help bolster this team. I spoke of Mitch Marner, Steven Stamkos, those kind of players that potentially they're going to have to do that. They're going to have to make a big swing for a big fish. I don't think that Ivan Miroshnichenko, Hendrik Lapierre, and Connor McMichael are going to be able to get it done exclusively, and I'll talk about them later in the show. They're going to have to make that big swing and to go outside of the organization to help jumpstart this team in the fall. All right, so coming up here straight ahead, we will talk about what changes what changes Alex Ovechkin needs to make. We saw that he didn't quite live up to potential this last season. What does he need to change? I'll discuss straight ahead. Policy Genius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting today. And that's one of the things that I took care of. I got life insurance in the unfortunate event that something happened to me, that my family would be prepared. Policy Genius helps you compare your options from top companies, and their team of licensed experts is on hand to help you walk through it. Talk to a team of award-winning agents who will walk you through the process step by step. Easily compare quotes from America's top insurance in just a few clicks to find your lowest price. Your work life insurance policy may not offer enough protection for your family's needs. And even worse, it may not come with you if you leave your job. So check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedonnhl or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/lockedonnhl. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all the shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you the can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team. It is every day. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So Alex Ovechkin has come to terms with the fact that he needs to make changes. This last season was not enough. It is a good thing that he found hockey after the All-Star break and made a pretty good dent at his goal total, finishing this season with 31 goals, but still didn't live up to potential. And I think that he is reevaluating what he must do this offseason so he can get a better result to ultimately help this team and also to help him chip away at catching Wayne Gretzky. Caps and Ovi disappointed with postseason performance. What needs to change for Ovechkin as he's headed towards the twilight phase of his career as he continues to chase down Gretzky and push for another cup? I don't know if it was a training thing, why he got off to a slow start. Many people point to the fact that it was a lot different with Spencer Carbery's systems. In any event, he plans to tweak what he does this offseason. Alex Ovechkin and the Washington Capitals faced a disappointing end to their 2024 Stanley Cup playoffs run after being swept by the New York Rangers in the first round. As Ovechkin gears up for his 20th NHL season in 24-25, he is determined to make changes to his training routine in pursuit of breaking Wayne Gretzky's all-time goals record, which he is just 42 goals away from. That's what we want. And Alex Ovechkin has spoke of that he does, in fact, want to catch Wayne Gretzky, but for him, more important is for this team to win another cup while he still is on the active roster. And I believe that. I think that, if the team plays well, if he plays well, him catching Gretzky will just be something that comes along with that. So I don't think that, he should be so laser focused on catching Gretzky. And I don't believe that he is. I think that's more of a fan thing. I think that's more of an NHL talking heads thing. I just think that if he sticks to what he knows best, that catching Gretzky will just come along with it. So let's talk about that. What Ovechkin plans to change as far as his training is concerned. Ovechkin plans to revamp his training regimen and continue working with his longtime Russian trainer, Pavel, in the offseason. Despite showing signs of aging in 23-24, Ovechkin remains committed to surpassing Gretzky's record, even hinting that he might delay retirement until he achieves that feat. He has not come out and said that he will, as a matter of fact, do that. And as a matter of fact, there's been times that he said that he does plan on retiring after his current contract. But I think that he would entertain the possibility if he was, let's say, 10 goals or 5 goals from catching Gretzky. Do you really think that he's going to say, well, I did my best. I guess good luck to the next guy. I don't really think that would be the case. Talking about here, despite the early exit for the Capitals and Alex Ovechkin, he was happy that the team made it to the playoffs. And why is that? Because towards the end of the season, I'm going to say the last 2 to 3 months of the season, making it to the playoffs seemed like something that the Capitals were just not going to be able to do. Spencer Carbery and a lot of the players said that the last 2 to 3 months of the season seemed like the playoffs. And the fact that they were able to rally the team and win 3 games to end the season, having to win the final game of the season to make it in the playoffs, I think was a big motivation. I think that we remember Alex Ovechkin's big smile from ear to ear. But Spencer Carbery was very candid about saying that is a loser's mentality, that he wants more. And I think that the Capitals want more. But Alex Ovechkin, he was pretty happy. The past season was challenging for Ovi, who struggled with injuries and adjusting to line combinations. Despite the difficulties, he expressed pride in the team's performance and ability to stay in the playoff race. Now, again, of course, we would have hoped that the team would have done better, that they would have at least been able to win a single game in the playoffs, but they did the unthinkable. and that was make it to the playoffs. And I understand what Spencer said, and I kind of agree with what he's saying. But in this time of reflection, now that the season is further and further, the past season in the rearview mirror, we can kind of reflect on it and just say, hey, that was pretty cool that the Capitals were able to make it to the playoffs. They fizzled in a hurry, but they weren't the only team. And at the end of the day, it'll be come down to two teams, and then only one team will win the Stanley Cup. And it just wasn't their year. I don't think it's something that, Capitals fans and the players and everyone should dwell on. They need to think about what needs to change. Alex Ovechkin, he needs to consider what he needs to work on so this team can hit the ground running in the fall. So what are Ovechkin's goals for the 24-25 season? Looking ahead to the 25 season, Ovechkin is focused on leading the Capitals to playoff success while continuing his pursuit of becoming the all-time leading goal scorer. With a new training regimen, Ovechkin seems determined to cement his status as the most prolific goal scorer in NHL history. And I do believe that's true, and I ultimately do think that he has what it takes. But one of the things that we can have happen next season is to have that leg like we did this last season. And there should be no real reason for that, as Spencer Carbery's systems were quite a bit different than Peter Laviolette's, but they also have some more miles on the odometer with Spencer Carbery. So unless Spencer plans on doing an about face and changing things up totally, I think that it will be business as usual, and there shouldn't be that learning curve. So for me, I'm already feeling hopeful about next season, that the players on this team, with some key additions, with some subtractions, should be in a lot better position this fall than the previous fall. All right, coming up here after the break, we will talk about how the Capitals, they need to see a whole lot more from their young players. Yes, it cannot just be the veterans on this team. So what do we need to expect from Miro, LaPierre, and McMichael? I'll discuss straight ahead. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 in spreads, money lines, and player props when you use FanDuel. It's winner takes all in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. And sometimes when you're watching the playoff games in the NBA or Major League, maybe it's the Nationals, and you're not that into it, open up the FanDuel app, put a little bit of money on the game, and all of a sudden it gets that much more exciting. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So what is one of the things that need to change this next season? Brian McClellan said in the postseason press conference that, yes, he does plan on going out after that top 6 forward, like I spoke about in the first segment, but he is going to want to see more from the future faces of this team and present faces in the form of Miro. You take a look at Hendrix Lapierre, Connor McMichael. We need to see a whole lot more. The Caps changed a lot this past season. Some of the changes were unexpected. Mac wants to add from the outside, but also develop. That's the big thing, is that there's a lot of talent internally. You have to utilize that. The Caps are undergoing a significant change with the emergence of young talent. Players like Backstrom, Kuznetsov, Mantha, and Edmondson have left the team, allowing rising stars such as Connor McMichael and Hendrix Lapierre to step up to fill critical roles. General Manager Brian McClellan has highlighted the need to enhance scoring and expects much of it from within, emphasizing the growth and development of the team's young prospects. And we did see rather large growth just based. You take a look at Connor McMichael and Hendrix Lapierre, who were in the Calder Cup last season for the Hershey Bears, and how much they learned. You saw how much Ivan Miroshnichenko's career has grown, or his hockey has grown since leaving the KHL and coming over here and having a stint with the big team and also playing with the Hershey Bears. How much better Will those players be in the fall with all of that experience? It really makes you think. So, what needs to change for the Capitals as they transition from an older team to a younger team? And it's going to be difficult because some of the players on this team might not be here. Nicholas Backstrom, I'm going to go ahead and say he's not going to be here. And TJ Oshie, I'm saying it's 50-50 at this point. So there is a lot more to be expected from the young guys. The team's offensive performance in the regular season was below expectations, and their inconsistencies in special teams, additionally, with veteran players like Alex Ovechkin and TJ Oshie facing uncertain futures, there is a focus on increasing speed, physicality, and energy in the lineup. And that is of paramount importance. And I think in large part, it'll be the young players looking up to the likes of Tom Wilson, who is kind of slowly transitioning into being the next captain. And my estimation kind of is, as he has taken on the role of taking the younger guys under his wing, as it seems like Ovechkin has the title of captain, but ultimately it kind of almost feels like Wilson is right now. So what role will the younger Capitals take in this new regime, if you will? Looking ahead, players like McMichael, LaPierre, and Miroshnichenko are expected to take on a more significant role and responsibility and contribute to scoring. McClellan stresses the importance of growth, physical development, and adapting to the game's intensity of these young players. He also highlights the improved performance of defenseman Alex Alexiev and the need for the team's young talent to elevate their game further. And I do think that there is room for growth. I think that we can see a whole lot more from McMichael, LaPierre, and Miro. And it's also refreshing that they have flexibility on the blue line as well in the form of Alex Alexiev. He was the guy that was circled to start the season last season, but then Brian McClellan signed Joel Edmondson, so he got kind of bumped down a little bit. But after Edmondson left, it was pretty much all Alex Alexiev in his Edmondson's absence, or his departure rather, and I think he did a really, really good job. The players will need to be more aware and responsible in how to adapt. It is a constantly changing game. The NHL is increasingly getting younger. It's getting faster, and it's not just about tough guys and big guys. You need skilled sharpshooters that are fast to compete with the likes of some of the best in the NHL. Take a look at the Hurricanes, how they're turning it around. You take a look at the Panthers in the Bruins series. You take a look at the Stars in Colorado. That is what is evident with those teams, is they're getting faster. Not to mention what's going on with Edmonton and Vancouver, that is real apparent, that you need not just these tough guys, but you need skilled players and you need to be faster. That is, I think, what needs to change. While the Capitals plan to make changes in the offseason, including adding new talent, the development and progression of their young players will be equally crucial to the team's success. McClellan emphasizes the individual responsibility of players to improve in all aspects while acknowledging the team's support in their development. And again, I think that a lot of this was fast-tracked just based on how the Capitals changed. Nick Backstrom stepped away from hockey. That saw an increased role for Connor McMichael. Kuznetsov got dealt out to Carolina. You saw LaPierre come into the forefront a little bit more. And then towards the end of the season, we saw Ivan Miroshnichenko back on the roster. We saw him earlier as well. And we saw how great he's playing. We also have seen how great he is playing for the Hershey Bears in the Calder Cup push here as they take on to the next round tomorrow evening. So exciting time lies ahead. This is something that many Capitals fans have talked about for the longest time, that we want to see this young talent. Well, we will see a whole lot more of it next year. My hope, my prayer as a Capitals fan is that we see some more key additions like a Nikolaj Ehlers, like one of those top tier forwards or centers that might be available. I think that ultimately the Capitals need to target an experienced center to bring out some of the great hockey and Alex Ovechkin. Ovechkin mentioned that as much. It wasn't speculation. He said that there was inconsistencies with the lines changing with Strome, with McMichael, with the different players that have been through their LaPierre and Dowd, that there needs to be more consistency because, you saw how much better Ovechkin played with the likes of Backstrom and Kuznetsov. So that is what they need, is a top-tier center as well. I would say at least 2 top 6 type forwards, or, with a high skill set to bring out the best in Ovechkin and the Capitals, so they can, do bigger and better things and try to do something crazy. And let's try to get Alex Ovechkin. Let's try to get the Capitals another Stanley Cup while Ovi is still playing the game. All right, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, your only daily year-round podcast covering the Washington Capitals. And I want to thank all of you that listen on the audio side and watch this on YouTube. You are ultimately what makes this show successful. When you're done here, head on over to Locked On's 24/7 streaming channel, available on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app and on YouTube. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.